Well, we definitely want to welcome everyone. We know things can be a little crazy right now, having to work and go to school and everything virtually. So we wanted to set up this webinar series in case, people are at home, don't really know what to do, especially with current parenting plans. A lot of new questions are coming up with, how to navigate having to school the children virtually, the time sharing aspect. And this is a 3-part webinar series. So Heather Quick is going to go over, one topic today. And based on your questions, we'll also have an additional discussion on Friday, as well as next week on Tuesday. So please keep that in mind. We're really happy to take any questions throughout this webinar. And I just wanted to give a little bit of an introduction. Heather Quick is the owner and founder of Florida Women's Law Group. We are the only family law group in Florida that caters specifically to women. We want you to know that we really support you in being courageous. It's really difficult to make that first step, and we're here to assist you. We are open during this time, and we are virtual, just like a lot of you are, but we do encourage you, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. We are available by phone, normal business hours, and I'll go ahead and I'll put our number in the comment section when Heather gets started. So please be prepared for some Q&A. There is a comment area via Facebook Live and also via Zoom for any of our attendees. Go ahead, put your questions in, and we'll see if Heather can have some time at the end to answer some of them. And if she doesn't get to all of them today, we will have 2 other opportunities. So without further ado, I would like to introduce everybody to attorney Heather Quick.
Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your participation in this webinar, and certainly hope that you're doing okay during all of the craziness going on. I know personally, you can see this isn't my office. This is our home office that we, that all the kids share, exercise bike and everything. In order to allow my staff to work from home and for us to be safe, to do, to be responsible during this time. And it's difficult for me to navigate that. And I imagine that it is for you as well. So what I really hope to accomplish during this first series and then in subsequent series is giving some information for individuals who are having questions about their time sharing related to their parenting plans, custody issues, and all of the things that either you have in a temporary plan, a final divorce or paternity plan, or you're just trying to navigate and you have questions as to what will happen. What do I do? You've maybe just begun the process and don't have currently a court order. I own Florida Women's Law Group. We have been practicing in the area of family law exclusively for women for probably over 8 years, related specifically to women. And so throughout that time, I have had an opportunity to draft and participate in multiple parenting plans. Never have we addressed an issue such as this, as you can imagine, because we haven't been through anything such as this. So I will assume that none of these parenting plans really address such a issue, and that leaves a lot of us without guidance. And certainly not only you as individuals that have a parenting plan that helps you navigate the time sharing and issues related to your children with your ex, but the attorneys don't have any experience with how to navigate in these circumstances. So now with where we sit now on today is March 24th with COVID-19 and our court system in Florida. I'm going to start there because then we can break it down from that and certainly answer your questions. And as questions evolve between now and Friday, I will certainly fill those in, for Friday's series. But to begin with, the Supreme Court of Florida essentially issued an order stating that only essential proceedings were going to continue. As you can imagine, the court system deals with many things, and personally, I know, when it's your matter, it is essential what is to happen. And we certainly have had hearings that can't go forward, and they needed to. We needed a decision. We needed to be heard by the court, certainly for our clients. And right now we are at a standstill to some extent. So that was issued. And then what the Supreme Court of Florida did is said, all right, we are going to, of course, allow each circuit and those administrative judges to issue orders and make decisions on what's going to be heard. So that has been done as well. The administrative judge in Florida, in the Fourth Circuit, is Judge Day, and he has issued an order and specified what will happen with the cases within the family law division and how those will proceed forward. Likewise, in St. Johns County, which is the Seventh Circuit, they have issued as well. Again, really anything that is non-emergent, non-essential is going to be delayed. And there hasn't been as much direction at present from the St. Johns County courts, but I think that will continue to evolve, and it could change one way or another. We're really not sure right now, of course, as you know. So what I wanted to touch on, one, is what will be heard. I will follow up on the essential proceedings, because it isn't completely defined, but I have looked through all of the orders, and I do know what cases are going forward, and I do know that there will be some things handled, of course. What we're looking at right now, and I'll get back to the essential, is within a parenting plan, we have timesharing is handled, meaning, visitation, where the children go with what parent and when. It certainly also addresses shared parental responsibility. Shared parental responsibility requires that the parents are working together on issues such as school, medical care, and religion. And then it also deals with child support and usually extracurricular, a lot of things, as well as daycare, things of that nature. So well-written parenting plan addresses a lot of issues. The ones that I think are probably affecting most people right now with no guidance is, okay, we have time sharing, we have this schedule, but now maybe my mom has to work virtually, or dad, or somebody's been laid off. All right, and the children aren't in school. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a childcare facility where your children can go, that's great. There are a few, not many. And then, of course, though, that's a new expense if your children were in school. Or if your child goes to that child care facility, one person can work from home, one person's not working. Again, what decisions do we make and how do we govern them? So on the time sharing issues that I want to cover is, one, okay, what do you do if you two are not in agreement? Let's just say both of you are still able to work virtually, or on the phone, but now the children are home. Okay, well, where do they go? Which parent has them, and how are you going to determine that? Because you both need to work, you want to work, but your children need some supervision. In Duval County, the schools started this week, yesterday. I have heard feedback that it was a lot more work for the parents in just maneuvering that than maybe they expected or anticipated. St. Johns County, we start next week. Again, there's going to be a lot. It's necessary. We can't just probably put our children in front of a computer and then go on our way. There's a lot that's going to happen. So where do we who is going to have the children during what period. That is essentially what we're talking about for time sharing. And then it's a question of, can the two of you agree? Now, if you can't, then we certainly need to, I would say, look at your specific parenting plan, which, yes, I would, but right now, a lot of it's out the window because we're dealing with circumstances that we haven't. So my advice would be to talk to you. If you and your ex cannot get along, or your current spouse, and you're in the middle of the divorce, and you guys can't figure it out. And I get that because it happens. And there's a lot of stress going on right now. People are experiencing things they haven't. So it would not be uncommon to not be able to agree. So don't, I mean, this is not judgment. This is the reality. It's not happening. So therefore, if you're not in agreement, you can't figure it out, you need to call your attorney. You need to call an attorney, because I think it's time now that we can be creative and help you navigate through this process. Meaning, even if we can't get in front of a judge for a few months, which is the reality on something like this in filing, there are a lot of mediators. Now, our mediators are great within the whole Northeast Florida area. And just like I'm talking to you, we can have 4 people in a room, 3 people in a room, and we can hash out some issues. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do to get where we need to. Likewise, maybe just having your attorney look at it and propose something, kind of step in and say, hey guys, let's try to work this out, because a decision has to be made. We have to figure this out now. The issue of schooling, again, hopefully not too much of a disagreement, but who's going to help? Who's going to administer it? Where are the children going to be during the school day? Again, your attorney can help you navigate that. If there are particularly any disagreements on medical care, to me, depending on the severity of it, and really frankly, guys, with any of these things, everything sometimes, a lot of things can rise to the level of where I would say, I think, based on my experience, that we could maybe get a decision sooner, and the court may have a telephonic hearing for us. It just depends. I'm not hoping that happens. But sometimes, we're looking at, okay, I think this is going to affect the best interest of the child. Things aren't going to happen as they should. Let us intervene. And if we can't resolve it for you with a proposal to your ex-husband, let's look at what we can do to get you in front of the court. So not saying that is easy, as not that it's ever really easy, because there's a lot of things that fall into what is an emergency or an essential pleading. But when we're talking about the best interest of the children, that always is. Which leads me to the next issue, safety. And that is health and safety. I mean, safety is a big issue, but I did want to address, because it was issued by the Fourth Circuit, which is Duval County, Duval, Clay, and Nassau. And I feel certain it'll be a similar order in St. Johns County. But again, when we're talking about orders of protection and the issues of domestic violence, there are, you can file a petition for a temporary order of protection against domestic violence. And you file that order. Most individuals will go to the clerk's office, they get help. Okay, now all of that's virtual or closed. So how do they then help people? They are making some type of accommodations, but either way, if you're in a situation where there's an issue of domestic violence that you believe you need to file for an injunction, that process is still open. It's just going to be different. And by different, I mean, I am not sure the extent of the clerk's office to help you complete the paperwork and get it filed. We certainly do that in our office, and we have for many years. And then, so if that is a question you have, you can certainly let us know, because the issue of domestic violence and violence in the home is certainly not going to stop in the wake of a pandemic. And when there is an increased level of stress and anxiety, you see this a bit more. But when we talk about safety in children, which is a roundabout way of getting there, I get sidetracked when talking about issues of domestic violence. The main thing I want to point out is that if it's involving children, your hearing will be granted sooner. So when we have issues of domestic violence, you'll get an immediate order if your concerns and allegations meet the minimum of the statute. But what they're saying, and that's kind of where I was talking about what's essential, it's children take a higher priority than the rest of us as adults. We can fend for ourselves in the family law setting. But there will be a hearing within 2 weeks. At present, it'll be by telephone or video. It's going to depend on their capability and the volume of cases. But it's going to be between 3 to 4 or 5 weeks. And those are going to be issues that we'll handle via this way, video conference with the court or telephonically. So that process is still going on, and it affects the time sharing with the children. Obviously, if there's a situation that there's a concern of harm to you or your children, having the children involved in that is going to fall under what I would consider essential as just outlined by the court. They clearly didn't define it. They're looking for the lawyers in the community to educate and advise our clients as best as we can to help guide you through this uncertain time. So that is, that's how they're handling those things. Now, in the normal course of business, which is, okay, hey, Heather, my case was set for mediation in 2 weeks and a trial in 3 weeks. The trial, may get pushed a little bit further, but right now, under the court orders, they can all still go on. So there would be no reason to delay. All mediations should absolutely be able to take place in this type of adapted format, which is by video conference or telephone. And then if there is a trial or if there's a hearing set, as it stands now, those can continue. The courts have ordered that they will be done just by like this on Zoom or telephone. If we have evidence, and meaning documents and things like that, they've outlined a procedure so that we can submit those to the court. So I want to clarify for everyone that the system has not shut down. We can still operate, and there may be some people who aren't equipped to continue operating, or they don't want to pursue their case anymore. But I just want you to know you don't have to. If you are still having issues, disputes, if you're in the middle of a case now, you believe, oh, now I'm just going to have to wait 6 months. That's not the reality, as I have read it coming from the administrative judge and the chief judge. So I'm not making the rules, but I'm letting you know that I have researched that and looked at it, and everything can continue to go on. Now, in the event that your attorney can't function remotely or electronically, or your husband's attorney can't function that way, that hasn't been dealt with specifically, but I think what my belief would be, the court may give them a little bit of leeway, but they can operate by telephone. Everyone can. And certainly now in Florida, everything is electronically filed. So everyone has to have email and therefore access to a computer. So if it were seen as a delay tactic, okay, yeah, if you're wanting to delay, this would be a prime opportunity. But I want to assure you, I don't think it will be indefinitely. There's going to be, of course, some grace given, if you want to use that as, the word, and bringing it in that way. But we're going to get through this. And the most important thing is, if you have concerns and issues with how you're dealing with your spouse, your ex-spouse, and you're unable to resolve it yourself, I just don't want you to think you're all on your own, because you're not. Our office is completely open. Every attorney is working from home. We have everything on the cloud, so we have access to everything. We can still file pleadings. We can email with the courts and get things scheduled. So at least that can remove that part off of your concern list, because we are really still at the beginning of this, and I think we're going to continue to see more. School may continue a little bit through summer, hopefully not too much, because I think there hasn't been as much of a delay, but it's going to impact, as it already has, certain time that certain parents have. If it's a long distance time sharing arrangement, that could be problematic. And I really do think that if you and your spouse are unable to discuss, please give us a call, because travel right now is questionable and concerning. And I know we canceled a trip, canceled a few trips, just because what if we got stuck? We're not really sure what the airlines are doing. There's so much talk, and unfortunately a lot of news media to access, but you want to be smart. You want to be reasonable in the actions you're taking with, as it relates to the children. Because at the end of the day, if we're in front of a judge 6 months from now, we're all doing the best we can with the information we have. So some issues that have come up are for hospital workers, which are essential workers that everybody needs. I know that some ex-spouses have said, well, if you're going to keep working at the hospital, I'm going to have the child 100% of the time, because they're going to be at risk. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think that is the right remedy, because I think that's not in the best interest of the child. So you need to talk to somebody, because if that is the impasse where you are and neither one of you, you're like, no, we're going to continue on our schedule, and your spouse is saying, no, you work in a hospital, I'm keeping the child, we need to talk and figure that out for you, because I don't agree with that. If they, I think we will have to rely on what the CDC said, and it doesn't say hospital workers stay in the hospital and they quarantine themselves from everybody else. That's not it. We're using reasonable precautions. Quarantined if they've returned from travel outside the country. Okay. That needs to be in place. And that may affect if you were on a trip with your child and now back. Okay, you need to follow that in quarantine, and then let's look at how they can make up that time sharing. Because again, our goal, at least my goal for any of my clients, is one, to get them a resolution to get through this, so that we at least remove the disagreement, the conflict with your child's father, so that we can move forward. There's a lot of other things to deal with. But then also, if you are making decisions now and hey, we're going to be in court soon, or we're already in the middle of court, but it doesn't rise to the level of the judge is going to hold a hearing on these issues, that I suggest you need guidance to help you act in a prudent, reasonable manner. Because in the many trials that our attorneys have been through and in front of courts, that's sometimes, really what it comes down to. And it is looking back, which is a lot easier than when you're in the moment making decisions. And that's why I strongly suggest that you, just talk to somebody, talk to someone in our office. Certainly our clients have been reaching out, at least to get a basis of how to proceed. That again we're not the final decision maker. We've just been in front of all of the judges in the area, done this multiple times, so that you can get advice on what would be the best practice at this point, because there aren't a lot of actions you can really take. The doctors and many therapists aren't open. I know everyone is really trying to take their business, if it involves seeing patients, and how can they do that remotely, but it may take some time for them to do that. So, we certainly want to, make ourselves available so that we can get you through this time. What I hope to discuss in further detail as we move through this webinar series is the children and the schooling, and where the schooling is going to take place, as well as how the parents are adjusting their time schedules at work. I think that is becoming more of an issue, and if you need additional help in the home to help educate your child and just manage them so that you can continue to work, we're going to need to look at where though that support's going to come from. That's not only on one parent. That needs to be shared, and that's a discussion that needs to be had, and you should have a resolution for that, rather than digging yourself in a hole with a lot of costs to get your children through the school year and what needs to happen without that other parent participating. In the issue of medical care that I touched on in the parenting plan, I want to address the testing. I think that's going to become more of an issue in the next couple of weeks. I know they are currently doing testing here in Jacksonville in 2 areas, and you have to meet certain criteria to get that testing. But I think they're working on some type of treatment or a vaccine in the near future. And those are going to be issues because we're looking at something we've never seen before. This isn't the flu shot that's recommended, but not required, and still creates some disagreement against parents. And so those are some things that if you have questions, if it is specifically coming up for you, please ask, type it in, reach out to our office, because I have a list in my head of all the things that I know I'm thinking about, I'm concerned about with having children: school, health, social distancing. What's the right thing to do when there's there's some rules, but there's still a lot in the gray area. So the more that you have that you're having issues, and how I can apply, what's available in the law versus what you have available, we're happy to answer and provide some kind of guidance, because that is everything that we're receiving from the courts, is charging the attorneys with help your clients navigate through this. Because at present, the traditional court system is going to be a little bit slower, and many of these things need to be resolved faster. So therefore, if there is a way to get it done faster, I think that we need to do that for you and address those issues, because as we talk about children, their best interest is at the forefront of what the courts are considering. So anything that deals with their best interest, of course, health and safety, we need to look at. Now, not that economics aren't important, but they're not going to be at that same level to where they're going to get resolved quickly. But it may not be something that we get to resolve in a month, but we can then lay the groundwork and certainly set you up so that if you're incurring extra costs on behalf of your child and your ex-spouse is not contributing, and you've asked and they're just not pulling their weight and helping you because, oh, I'm not ordered to pay that wasn't in there. There are ways we can help you at least set yourself up for some retroactive help and put you again in the best light possible when we do get an opportunity to get in front of the court system. And so those are the things that I really wanted to share today. And I know we've had several emails and comments come in, certainly through our clients. And even if they're not here today, we're going to replay this webinar for everyone so that you can follow up, provide us with specific issues that you may be dealing with. And please let us answer, because it's a difficult time for all of us. We're in a bit of uncharted waters for during our lifetime. These things have certainly happened in the past where there have been, certainly outbreaks and scares as it relates to health issues, but it hasn't happened to this degree in my lifetime as an adult that I'm really aware of and affected me, certainly not since I've had children. So I am looking to what do I know we can do to help, get everyone relief, because that is, our goal, and the courts are relying on the lawyers in the community to assist everyone in navigating their legal issues and trying to get you a resolution, not delay it, just get you a resolution and get you moving forward in that direction. Because they are still open and the judges are still working, their assistants, and they're doing what we're doing, working from home, and trying to nobody wants to stop things that are in process. It's just helping everybody adapt. So Michelle, if you want to give everybody some follow-up and the information on the consults, and like I said, we can certainly, we will answer any of your questions to the best that we can. Sometimes we may, need a little more information or need to have a conversation. It's not just a quick question that can be answered by email, but we can hopefully, and I know, guide you and lead you in the right direction so that you are getting answers to your problems. And I thank you for joining us today. It's a difficult time, and stay strong, stay positive. Try to keep with, your routines as best as possible, and same with your children. I'll touch base next week and let you know how virtual school is going in the Quick household. I'm not sure how it's going to do, but I certainly am not a teacher. I'm really good at the legal work. I'm not so sure on the teaching side, and of course in balancing it all. So I'm right in there with you, but to the extent I can help you and get you through any of these family law issues, we are here for you.
All right. So we definitely want to say thank you to everybody who was able to join us today. Like Heather said, we are all available at our firm. We're here working remotely. We're answering the phones. So please, if you have additional questions, reach out to us. If we weren't able to address it today, we're hopefully going to be able to address everything for follow-up Friday or even next week on Tuesday. So submit your questions. Let us know what you're interested in hearing about. We would love to hear back from everyone. We also are still taking calls for consultations. Of course, we're able, luckily, to do everything virtually. So if you would like to participate, do a consultation with one of our attorneys, whether it's about a parenting plan, a divorce, or some other matter, please let us know. We'd be happy to help you. And you can call us at our number. It's 904-241-0012. I'll be on the phone until 5:30. So please, and if you have any feedback for this webinar, we would love to hear that as well. We'll do our next webinar this upcoming Friday at 10 a.m. live, and we'll do our replay that afternoon. So if you can go to our Facebook event, you can click the link to register, and there is actually a place there where you can also pre-submit your questions. So we'd be happy to take any questions for those upcoming webinars, and we'll address anything that we can, what we have time for. Heather is going to be available, and there also is still the opportunity to drop questions in the live chat during the webinar as well. So we hope to hear from some of you soon. We're here working our regular hours, and we'd be happy to help all of you. So thank you so much for everybody who was able to join us today, and we will talk to you all soon.